Imagine a world where the legendary guitarist whose groundbreaking sound revolutionized music didn't leave us at just 27. In this alternate reality, we'll explore how Hendrix's career might have evolved.
Hey, can we just have one kind of hurry? Don't waste all the film there. Stop it for a second.
The music he could have created, and the influence he might have continued to wield in shaping rock, blues, and beyond. Let's dive into this journey of untapped potential and the enduring legacy of one of history's greatest musicians. Jimi Hendrix was born on November 27, 1942, in Seattle, Washington. Raised in a challenging environment, he discovered music as a source of solace, teaching himself to play guitar. After a brief stint in the U.S. Army, he pursued a music career, playing with acts like the Isley Brothers and Little Richard, before forming the Jimi Hendrix Experience in 1966. Hendrix quickly rose to fame with his groundbreaking guitar techniques and hits like Purple Haze and Hey Joe, earning international acclaim with albums such as Are You Experienced and Electric Ladyland. His legendary performances, including setting his guitar on fire at the Monterey Pop Festival, cemented his status as a rock icon. Despite his success, Hendrix struggled with the pressures of fame and substance abuse. He tragically passed away on September 18, 1970, at the age of 27. His innovative approach to music and lasting influence make him one of the greatest musicians in history. Jimi Hendrix is widely regarded as one of the greatest guitarists in music history, but his rise to fame was catalyzed by key relationships, particularly his meeting with Chas Chandler in 1966. Chandler, the bassist of the Animals, recognized Hendrix's talent and helped launch his career internationally. Let's analyze how Hendrix's life might have unfolded if he had never met Chandler, focusing on his relationships, career, and personal challenges. By 1966, Jimi Hendrix was a struggling musician in New York City. Though incredibly talented, he played primarily as a sideman for artists like the Isley Brothers, Little Richard, and Curtis Knight. While these gigs offered valuable experience, Hendrix often clashed with band leaders over his flamboyant style, which they saw as overshadowing their acts. This tension often led to brief stints and an unstable career trajectory. Without Chandler's intervention, Hendrix might have remained stuck in this cycle. His unconventional approach to guitar, while groundbreaking, was not aligned with mainstream R&B trends at the time. He lacked the industry connections and promotional backing to showcase his artistry on his own terms. That without Chas Chandler's intervention, Hendrix's exposure and career trajectory could have looked vastly different. In 1966, while still playing in the United States, Hendrix was already showing signs of his unique musical style, blending blues, rock, and psychedelic sounds, but he had yet to find the right audience. He had tried to make a name for himself as a session guitarist, but his bold, experimental approach to the guitar was often considered too outlandish for mainstream acts. His experience playing with artists like Little Richard and the Isley Brothers gave him a strong foundation in rhythm and stage presence, but it also highlighted his frustration with the limitations of those bands' musical structures. Had Chandler not discovered him, Hendrix likely would have continued bouncing from one unremarkable gig to another, possibly playing in small clubs or continuing to support established acts, but he would have struggled to break through the mainstream. The British music scene in the mid-60s was more open to innovation, with artists like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and the Yardbirds pushing boundaries. In contrast, the US market was less receptive to the experimental, guitar-driven sound that Hendrix pioneered. Chandler's strategic move to bring Hendrix to London, where the psychedelic movement was thriving, gave him access to a new world of creative possibilities and a larger stage. Without this, Hendrix might have struggled to gain recognition beyond a narrow audience of experimental music lovers, or remained in relative obscurity. The innovative sound that later defined Are You Experienced might have never seen the light of day, or at best would have been confined to the underground scene. In Jimi Hendrix's relationships, both supportive and tumultuous, played a crucial role in shaping his life and career. His rise to fame can be largely attributed to key figures like Chas Chandler, who recognized Hendrix's talent and brought him to London, where he formed the Jimi Hendrix Experience and became a sensation. Linda Keith, a model and former girlfriend of Keith Richards, also played a pivotal role in introducing him to the right people in the London music scene. Hendrix's bandmates, Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell, contributed to his success, although their relationships with him were often strained due to tensions over his dominance in the band. On the personal front, Hendrix's relationships with women like Kathy Etchingham and Monica Danneman were marked by intense love but also instability, with issues like substance abuse and emotional volatility affecting his personal life. His relationship with his father, James Allen Hendrix, was fraught with tension, though his mother and grandmother were supportive figures. Professionally, Hendrix's career was also marred by poor business decisions and exploitation by managers like Ed Chalpin. Despite these challenges, Hendrix's influence on the counterculture and his status as an anti-establishment figure were undeniable, and the complexities of his relationships, marked by both support and struggles, were integral to the person he became. Ultimately, it was the balance of these relationships that both fueled his rise to fame and contributed to his tragic downfall. If Jimi Hendrix had never met Chas Chandler in 1966, his career trajectory would have been significantly different. Without Chandler's guidance and connections, Hendrix's rise to fame might have been slower, with his exposure limited to smaller clubs and niche audiences. While his extraordinary talent as a guitarist would have earned him a following, it's unlikely he would have achieved the international stardom he did, remaining more of an underground figure within the blues or rhythm and blues circuits. His groundbreaking albums like Are You Experienced and Electric Ladyland might never have been made, or at least not with the same polished production that Chandler helped bring. Without the chance to perform at iconic events like Woodstock, Hendrix's electrifying stage presence might have been relegated to smaller venues, and his collaborations with other legends such as Eric Clapton or Miles Davis might have never happened. Though still a brilliant musician, Hendrix's legacy would have been far more limited, remembered as a respected but lesser-known guitarist rather than the revolutionary icon who redefined rock music. His influence would have remained strong in certain circles, but he may not have had the cultural impact that made him a global symbol of the 1960s counterculture. Without Chas Chandler, Jimi Hendrix's personal and professional challenges would likely have been more severe. His introverted nature and self-doubt would have intensified without the guidance and stability Chandler provided, possibly leading to deeper struggles with anxiety and self-esteem. Hendrix's heavy reliance on drugs and alcohol might have escalated, further affecting his emotional and mental well-being, as there would have been no one to help him manage the pressures of fame. His tumultuous relationships, marked by infidelity and emotional instability, could have become even more toxic without Chandler's influence. Financial exploitation and poor business decisions, which were already issues in Hendrix's life, might have worsened without someone steering him away from bad deals. Ultimately, the pressures of stardom, combined with his personal demons and lack of professional guidance, could have led to an even earlier and more troubled decline, limiting his potential and the legendary legacy we associate with him today. In this alternate reality, Jimi Hendrix's life would have likely unfolded in a much quieter, less impactful way. His raw talent and innovative style would have still turned heads in certain circles, but without the critical intervention of Chas Chandler, it's hard to imagine him becoming the global icon he is remembered as today. Hendrix's skills might have earned him a reputation among other musicians, but the chance to define a generation of rock music, especially in the way he did, would have been limited. In this version of his life, Hendrix would have probably remained a niche artist, playing smaller clubs, perhaps even teaching or mentoring other musicians, but never reaching the widespread fame he achieved with Are You Experienced and Electric Ladyland. His wild stage presence and boundary-pushing guitar techniques, though revolutionary, may have been overshadowed by other more conventional acts in a less daring music scene. Moreover, his personal demons, substance abuse, financial instability, and legal issues might have become even more pronounced without the structure Chandler provided, potentially spiraling out of control. Hendrix's career might have taken him down the path of a respected, but ultimately obscure musician, remembered only by the select few who appreciated his work. His influence on the guitar world and his ability to fuse blues, rock, and psychedelia might have found a more underground legacy, a tragic what could have been. In essence, the loss of Chandler's influence could have meant the world never truly heard the full scope of Hendrix's genius, and his star would have been dimmed far too soon, relegated to the shadows of what-ifs rather than the bright light of musical history. In this alternate reality, where Jimi Hendrix's career never fully reached its iconic peak, his death might have played out differently, though it's still difficult to predict with certainty, given his tumultuous lifestyle. Without the fame, fortune, and the pressures that came with being a global rock star, Hendrix's life could have taken a much darker, more personal turn. Without the protective structure of Chas Chandler and the support of his team, Hendrix might have faced more instability in his personal and professional life.
Dude, I'm sorry, but you're late.
His struggles with addiction, alcohol, LSD, and later heroin would have been harder to manage without the discipline of a major label or the resources to keep him grounded. He could have become a figure that faded into obscurity, battling these demons on his own, without the press or public scrutiny that might have forced him to confront them. In this scenario, Hendrix's death might have come earlier, likely due to overdose or complications from substance abuse. The lack of widespread fame could have meant fewer people around him to help or intervene. It's possible that without the pressures of global fame, he may not have been in the public eye enough for his struggles to be noticed by those who could have helped, and he might have been left alone in a more private, tragic way. His death might have been less of a public spectacle, with fewer tributes and memorials from the world he never fully influenced. In this alternate reality, his passing could have been just another casualty of rock and roll excess, forgotten by all but a small circle of musicians who knew his brilliance. He may not have become a cultural symbol, but instead a footnote in the story of music history, one whose potential was never fully realized. His death would have been a quiet tragedy, one that came not from a meteoric rise and fall, but from a life quietly stifled before it had the chance to burn as brightly as it could have. Thank you all so much for tuning in and diving into this alternate reality of Jimi Hendrix with us. We really appreciate all the new subscribers. Welcome to the Real Reels family. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like, share, and drop a comment below with your thoughts. What other what-if scenarios would you like us to explore next? Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss out on our latest videos. Keep it real, and we'll catch you in the next one.